All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm just going to get right into it. Today, we have an amazing guest, Jessica Rose. She is a full-time writer, content creator, and the founder of She Really Had a Baby. Jessica talks a lot about her experience as a mother, living in Los Angeles, and her relationship or lack of, I'll let you explain that, with her baby father. And most recently, she started talking about sobriety and, did you say fiance? And her life with her fiance. And I'm just really excited to have Jessica Rose on here today because I feel like so many people can relate. Jessica is real. I'm going to put her links in the details of this episode, but Jessica Rose, she's very real, honest, right? And then now she's adding sobriety into that mix, and I think that's so important because a lot of folks, especially just my time in recovery with the club, found ourselves in some type of, I don't know how you characterize, well, I do know, I've seen your videos, but I'll let you explain that for yourself. But I do characterize myself having been in addiction, and a lot of folks find ourselves in addiction or experiencing with substance misuse because we're conforming and we feel like we have to act and be and be a certain way. And a lot of times I hear women, especially in recovery, talk about their relationships with men or like their exes and children's fathers. Let me just say one thing. I'm not a mom. I am a womanist. I do hope to have kids someday. But I think that just because we're in recovery or just because we're practicing sobriety, just because we're trying to, improve some aspect of our lives, it doesn't mean that we can't keep it real when it comes to our relationships, especially with men. And I love your platform because you kept it real from the beginning, which I know a lot of folks can relate to that. We have a lot of mothers in our club, but then now you're adding sobriety and like a new, I don't want to say a new love interest, but yeah, I guess you could say your fiance, a new love interest to the mix, and it's just so relatable. So I'm gonna shut up, give you the floor. Welcome. Thank you for being here, Jessica Rose.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. So yeah, that was a wonderful introduction. But I am Jessica Rose. I am a content creator. I've been online since 2017. And when I first got online and I first got on the internet, I was originally just like blogging, and I wanted to share just kind of like my overall experience of single motherhood. And obviously with my personality, I've always been a more on the funny side of things, an entertainer, the funny fat girl to whatever respect. But I've also always been very, very good at writing. So when I first set out to brand myself with She Really Had a Baby, was with a blog, but I could not get people to pay attention. And so I made the pivot when I made a piece of content that took off for the first time. It was my first video. And I was just doing a little mom rap. And it got so much traction that I realized that my focus needed to, for one, really hone in on the motherhood aspect of things and the struggles with that, because the rap was kind of like baby daddy dissing and motherhood is this, but then also video content as well. So it's really taken off and grown from there. I've grown a platform of over 1 million followers over the course of the past, 6 or 7, maybe 8 years that I've been on the online space, and I continue to do so. But it's so funny because a lot of my content when I first started out was so centered on like mom wine culture. Like I always had like a glass of red wine. That was my thing. It was like, how do you mom without wine? And it was a literal part of my routine. But I feel like behind the scenes, behind the jokes, behind the videos, and a glass of wine always kind of being in tow, there was me really struggling because I didn't feel like I could mother without alcohol. I felt like I would go through a work day, pick up my kid, pick up a bottle of wine, and go home. And then the bottle started getting bigger. You go from your skinny one to, I'll get the big one. Or you go from, it's not that bad because it's just wine. And my overall experience with alcohol, I would have periods of time where I wouldn't drink, but when I did drink, I couldn't stop. So very much like binge-like behavior with alcohol. And whether it was wine at home, which was becoming almost every day for me, or, you know, going out and going to Pound Town on the wine or the whiskey, or combining it all, because at one point or another it all starts to blend together. I started really, really getting real with myself about how much I hated how I felt after I would drink. And yeah, eventually I ended up doing something about it. I don't feel like I necessarily had some kind of like rock bottom per se that made me reevaluate my relationship with alcohol. I would say that I pushed through quite a few rock bottoms, very embarrassing situations, like very, you know, nights full of questionable moves, you know what I mean? Like, I've done a lot of things that I definitely regret. I've had a lot of anxiety. And I probably have a lot of things that I also just don't remember, because the way that I would binge with alcohol was not good. And at the time that I decided to get sober, I was living with my brother, who was in recovery, and he struggled with substance abuse as well as alcohol. And so at first I wasn't necessarily into going to the meetings with him, because I felt like it was like for drug addicts, I guess you would say. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm that. But when I would try to go to AA meetings, I felt like people were just there to sign off on a ticket from like a DUI, and it wasn't as transparent of a space, or open as a space, or as willing of a space as NA was. So I started off by going to Narcotics Anonymous, because, you know, I do consider alcohol to be a drug. And through those meetings and through some of the things that I was reading, I did slowly, and I go back and forth with this. I do consider myself an addict in a lot of ways. You know, I feel like my relationship with food, you know, at one point or another, like you were mentioning, like my relationship with men or sex or alcohol altogether, my inability to stop when I got going on something, regardless of the frequency. And I just got tired of being sick and tired of myself. And so I started going to meetings. Everyone's always like, how did you get sober? How did you figure it out? I just started going to meetings. I started having awareness. I started tracking it. You know what I mean? I have 607 days without alcohol as of today. And I'm really, thank you. I'm really, really proud of myself. And I think that I thought that it was gonna look different. You know, you get on Instagram and you see all the people that say that they got clean, and then it's like they have a video of them just being like big and unhappy and drunk, and then next thing you know, they're like in a gym, and they're so skinny, and they're like, you know, they're doing well. And I think one of my sobriety videos when I was like 6 months was like me before and then me sober, and I was just like hysterically crying. Because you start to, like, I call it like raw dogging life. You have to really feel everything. You have to experience everything and be present for everything. And the reality is, man, life kind of sucks sometimes. And I think that that's why I was drinking, but it was making it worse. You know, it was kind of just postponing the suckiness instead of dealing with it. So at almost 2 years, I'm on the way to 2 years, and I'm just like, I'm still dealing with the shit, you know? So it's a journey. I don't know if I fully answered or if I just kept going it was supposed to. I'll get real long with the girl. I'll just keep going and going.
And we love that. We love a queen who knows how to talk and what to talk about. And so that's totally fine. And no, more than definitely. I just wanted you to introduce yourself and tell our listeners how you came about with your platform and then entered into sobriety. And you definitely answered that. And thank you. I have 2 questions on my head right now. One, you said you've always been very funny. Sign, which is zodiac sign?
Leo. I'm a big Leo. Leo just passed. Leo's coming to the end. Yeah.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Do you know what your rising is?
Let me look on what's it called? CoStar. Hold on, let me see. I think I'm like surprisingly, I may be like a Virgo rising or something. Okay, I'm a Leo, Sun, Virgo, Moon, Libra rising.
Oh wow. Okay. I'm definitely seeing the vibes. I did not know you went through 12 steps. I did not know that.
And now let's be very clear. I did not finish 12 steps. I never got a sponsor. I honestly never worked the steps. It was more so an environment thing. I go back and forth with myself about if I need to fully work a program all the time. You know what I mean? I feel very confident in my sobriety 100%, but I still don't fully feel like I've dealt with all things that need to be dealt with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I still feel like if you went through, and we would honestly, like, this conversation is so relevant to a meeting that I had yesterday. Folks were struggling with whether or not they're doing recovery right. You know, they don't have sponsors or they're not doing the steps. But in my head, I'm just like, what is recovery? We're recovering ourselves, our body, our mind, our souls from a substance, right? So recovery is about doing things differently. And I think that my issue with, and I do go to 12-step meetings, but my issue with 12-step meetings is that it's so rigorous, it's so black and white, it's so and not all groups, not all home
it's
groups,
very black and white. Yeah.
Clearly the groups that were being talked about yesterday, because I found some groups that are very like, hey, you know, we're just happy you're here, and they're not forcing sponsorship on you or forcing meetings, but I know a lot of people do struggle with that. And just going back into recovery is that if you are going outside and getting sunlight, that's recovery. If you are walking, that is recovery. If you are not drinking, that is recovery. If you are just going to a meeting for fellowship, because we know connection is paramount to sobriety and recovery, then you are recovering. So to me, it's like you and we know what we truly need. And when we feel, or when we, I don't know, you know, and in that same meeting, we're reading the book Rest is Resistance, and we talk a lot about
I read that. It's good.
You read it, right? Mm-hmm. And we talk about how we do need to rest, and how we don't need to rush about accomplishing A, B, and C, and D, and E, and F, and G. And then when I hear folks talk about their 12-step experience, and how, you know, they're being told that they do have to do A, B, and C, D, and go to this meeting. It's like, it's kind of hypocritical to what we truly know that we need. So, girl, if you go to 12-step meetings, like, to me, you are a 12-stepper. Like, that's in my opinion. Like, it is what it is.
I think it's kind of just like, everyone does what works for them, and I feel like some people need that more like rigorous model to keep them accountable, and if you need that, but yeah, the groups themselves get pretty indefinite with like language and stuff like that. So also, I don't know, can you hear the sirens? Do you want me to pause if I hear sirens? Because literally my background, I live in downtown LA, it's so loud, it's constant.
No, I don't hear sirens, but like, I'm from New York, so we're good.
All right, cool. But yeah, the programs can be very rigorous, and I know even out here, I don't know what it's like. I'm sure it's the same, it's universal, but with like NA and AA, even they kind of have like beef with each other, because they'll just be like, they're not doing this way, or they're not doing this. It's very, you know, it could get a little cultish, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I think it's just whatever works best for you. Like, I know people that prefer AA because for whatever reason, their sobriety, and then another topic is everyone's definition of sobriety is different.
Exactly.
And so that's to each their own. Like, for me, sobriety is refraining from everything, but I know that for some people, sobriety means that they still do a little puff. They're what they call it, California sober. Mm-hmm. Me, as someone that never did well with weed anyway, to be honest, like, that's not my thing. So I am substance free across the board, but I know that like in the NA program, they'll tell you that you're not sober if you're this. So it's really just about like, what are you doing to enhance the quality of your life? Exactly. You know, what works for you. I'm not judging anybody.
Exactly. And I often hear folks do say that they do prefer, I've never been to an NA meeting, but I do hear folks who are in the 12-step realm, do say that they do prefer NA. So that's interesting. I want to attend a meeting one day and just see like what it's about.
Only thing I hate about the NA meetings is it's very white male dominated. At least where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it just feels like sometimes sobriety can be like a male white dominated space. So I think just this space and thing that you're doing and creating is pretty dope.
Thank you. And you said a lot during like your first intro to the space, but I definitely also want to touch on the fact that, like you said, like just because you're sober, it doesn't mean that life is a complete like 180 just rainbows and happiness all the time. I think one is important that, because that's another thing I'm hearing a lot in the club, in the recovery space, of like folks saying, well, I'm sober, but life is still like miserable. Either I'm like lonely with companionship, or I still don't have a job, or I still don't, things are still not popping off or happening for folks the way they intend. So I know a lot of folks can relate to that. And I just wanted to say that I feel like for me, where I am right now, sobriety and recovery is just making life not suck as much. I think also we have to like really acknowledge the times that we're in right now. Like honestly, the jobs are low. Rent is high. Folks are struggling, which makes it hard for people to build the romantic connections that they want. So sometimes it's really just not even about you. It's just what is going on in the world. And I do think that, the world does change, and I think it's going to change. So right now, I'm just holding on to my sobriety and recovery, just so when it does change and the opportunities I want in relationships and friendships and jobs and career like comes about, I am sober and able to go after them and accomplish them.
You
so
stay ready. It helps you stay ready, because just like you said, it's like, yes, it's the acceptance that life is already a certain way. But you have to be real with yourself about how the things that you think are alleviating that, if you really take a Rolodex look at everything, all the times that it actually just made it worse. How many times have you lost something while drunk that made your next day sober like hell looking for it? Or the amount of money that you drink because you're down on your luck about money, but you realize that in your drunkenness you spent way more money.
Girl,
I can't tell you the amount of times I've been like, it's on me. I don't know how or why it was on me, because it had no business being on me, but I woke up and there it is in my bank account. So just situations like that, I think I really like that concept, holding on to your sobriety, because it's like you're ready for when those things do get better. Because I do feel like life in general, regardless of what's going on in the world or not, is kind of like this up and down roller coaster that we're constantly going through. And your ability to ride the lows is really like what will determine just your overall state of happiness. Because the reason that those things happen, as cliche and corny as it is, it helps us realize how much better the highs feel. Like being broke feels so low, but like it helps us appreciate when that check comes and clears and you can do the things that you want to do. So but
talk about check. I am waiting on a couple of checks.
Listen, especially in the freelance and creator space, it's rough. Like, it's become very normalized to not pay people when you're supposed to pay people. And it's also become very normalized to have people do a ton of labor and effort up front for things and then have them wait astronomical amounts of time for the money, as if we don't need it to survive. So I personally, one of my ways that I've protected my peace is I went back to the 9 to 5. I still show up and do creative stuff, but I do definitely have a corporate gig. It's not necessarily 9 to 5. It's remote and it's in marketing. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Like, I'm not letting, these brands or these businesses or these individual people continue to play in my face, and it's kind of given me the power back and who I am as a person to be able to decline stuff. So if you do say you're
Love
not going to
that.
pay me in at least 15 days, that's fine. I don't have to take that opportunity. There were so many times when I was full-time freelancing that I was agreeing to ridiculous things like 60, net 90, because, well, at least it's, you know, and the higher the amounts of money, especially in brand partnerships and stuff in the online community space, like influencer space, would be up there and high. So I would just take it because I'm like, well, at least it's something coming in eventually. But it's just a mess. So I get it. Waiting on checks. I hate waiting on checks. I'm still waiting on a check right now. I just posted something on Threads. I was like, I feel traumatized because I feel like if a brand doesn't pay early or someone doesn't pay early, I'm already assuming they're going to pay late. I'm supposed to have a payment this Friday. And I just feel like since it's Wednesday and they haven't sent it, is it really coming on Friday?
Jessica, like, I am so annoyed, and because honestly, we started out similar. I started out as a blog as well, right? 2020, the Black Girls Club became an organization, a nonprofit. So even though in my recovery, I realized that content creation, I don't want to make it a job. Like, I'm happy that the blog the community, but I realize that, you know, part of my recovery, and I hope for other people recovery too, they know that there's more than online, and I see how like content creation is helpful, so because, you know, people can see that they're not the only one going through something, be like, oh, I'm not the only one. But I also realize it's like folks who, like, I wouldn't in the beginning when I stopped posting less, even now I don't post as much, I don't create as much content, but when there was a noticeable difference, folks would like reach out to me and be like, hey, like, Khadi, are you okay? What's going on? Or like, hey, like, you know, the page really helps them. I'm like, girl, go to a meeting. Like, you come to our meetings. Like, if you want to see me, I'm in the meetings. Honestly, like, I'm not going to make this our new normal, even though I understand how this became the standard, but I need to further away from that for my own sanity. So with that being said, I still do like jobs because, you know, we have a club to run. Like, for example, we have a retreat coming up, and recently I've been taking more content creating jobs than usual because we have to fund the retreat. And it's just so annoying that like the companies, and I'm just annoyed. I'm so annoyed, girl. You have no idea. Like, you reach out to me knowing that I'm also in recovery, knowing that like I am facing the highs and lows of life, of my own life, of running a club, of my own career. And when you don't pay or in time, you are adding more stress to me and my recovery. And I just realized like, a lot of these brands, a lot of these companies, they don't really mean what they say. They don't really have integrity. Like, the values are very low, and I'm waiting on a couple of checks, but after that, like after this retreat, I'm like done because it's ridiculous. Like I gotta comment, and I know I'm ranting, and I'll think about editing this part out. I'll think about it.
No, you should leave it in. Call them out. Say the brand names.
Like, you give me, like, this is one brand. I'm gonna just say one thing. This is one thing I did within the last year. Let's just put it like that. And I've done other, what do you call it? It's content freelancing work for other organizations, and it's very relaxed. People know I have an organization to run. I have my own life to run. I don't work for you. Tell me what you need. I'm gonna do it A, B, and C, and that's it. This particular brand or organization or whatever wanted to like talk online a couple of times and phone calls and this and that, all these deadlines, all these edits. I'm just like, okay, the next time if I do decide to work with you guys again, the fee is gonna be double because I don't work for you and I have an actual organization to run. And I had to meet all their deadlines. Where is the check? You know, you were on me with the deadlines, right? Multiple deadlines.
And where's my respect for my deadline?
Now where's the net 30? Like, what happened? Right. I'm still waiting. Ridiculous. All right. Thanks for letting me rant.
No, but you're right. And I'm sure, like, because your brand is like so niche down that these are brands that are reaching out to you and are, you know, trying to support recovery, but then are doing something stress inducing like that to, like you said, someone that is trying to heal and get their stuff together. So it don't make no sense.
And I recently did see you. Sorry.
I said it doesn't make any sense.
For sure.
How they operate.
at all. And I recently did see a video or a reel from you basically explaining why you went back to 9 to 5. And I respect it because it's real. I tell people all the time, this online content creation thing is not what you think it is. People front a lot. People undervalue themselves. So a lot of times people do things they're not even getting paid, but you might think they are. I know in the beginning for me, until I realized what was going on, and people try to make you feel bad. Well, like you're helping single mothers or you're helping, other people in recovery. Okay. And I need to help myself too. I gotta help what I got going on as well. So I just really relate because you're very real. And you did speak about your 9 to 5. All right. I know the mothers listening are like, Katie, be quiet and get to the motherhood part. All right. We're I know the mothers or the expecting mothers, folks who want to be mothers want to know, how has sobriety recovery affected your experience as a mother, as a single mother, with your daughter, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I said, I feel like for the earlier years, like the first half of her childhood, I've never been the mom that could like play. I'm still not. Like, I am who I am. I'm not about to get, first of all, my back, my knees, I'm not getting on this floor and crawling all over the place with you. But it's hard for me to tap into a childlike space. And I don't know if that's like me still recovering from a certain trauma, but I had really normalized the idea that alcohol helped me to do that. But also, again, in reflection of those moments where I was doing those kinds of things, it wasn't me being playful as much as it was just me being loose in a mess. And sure, I was maybe more playful, but it also wasn't a way that I wanted to model being for around and present with my daughter. And so I think that it's made me a lot more present. It's just made me a lot more aware in the things that I'm doing and the things that my child's doing. It just was, wine was a very, very easy way for me to check out of what was going on after a long day of work, like I was saying. And so not drinking has really just brought a sense of like awareness to everything that I deal with and experience in motherhood, in mothering my daughter. Now, I think that when you hear the words like mindful and awareness and present, it's like these positive things, but sometimes it's also just like, damn, like I am so aware of how much you need from me. You know what I mean? And so it's been interesting to navigate that. I still feel like I'm in the process of finding that sweet spot of it necessarily being a positive as I'm still healing myself. But yeah, just an overall increased awareness, like a part of like what alcohol did for me and does for people is it lowers those inhibitions. It lowers that awareness. And so when you're coming out of that, it feels like it can feel very overstimulating. So motherhood has definitely gotten more overstimulating for me, but I also have less moments where I felt embarrassed or, like I've maybe put my child in a compromising situation because of my choice to drink or overdoing it. So there's positives as well.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. If a mom who's listening, is there any type of advice you would want to give her? Anything comes to mind?
I think that the biggest advice, mom or not, is just that it's possible to stop. I know that it's so ingrained in culture. Everywhere you go, you'll be offered a drink, like whether it's your family dinner or night out on the town. Alcohol has been worked into the culture of today in such a normalized way, but like you have the power to stop. Like sobriety has taught me that I have the possibility of a discipline I've never been able to find in anything else, or that I now know is really possible. And so slowly but surely in my sobriety, I'm taking the steps now to like finding that same discipline with like my health and other journeys. But for sure, like you can do it, because I really, really have always felt like there's no way. All my friends drink. Everywhere I go, there's a drink. How am I going to do this? Am I never going to have fun again? It's like, I even at one point thought that alcohol was my personality. And it's like, it's just not true. Like, everything that you know about your relationship with alcohol is just not true. And you learn that over time, as you get sober. So that would be my advice, is that it is so possible to stop.
And you said another thing that's like really, really important. Well, I mean, everything you're saying is really important, but something that I often do hear that folks in the creative space, in the art space, feel that once they stop drinking or using, that they're not going to be as funny anymore or as creative. Can you talk a little bit about how your sobriety, if at all, has affected your anyway, so your creative process and deliveries?
So I used to think that too. I just think you have to give it more attention. Like, for me, when I would write something funny, like a funny rap, I always felt like I needed to be smacked to do that. But the reality is that alcohol just slowed me down, to sit me down to do something. And so just having more mindfulness around stuff like that. The things that I write and I do are just as funny and just as creative, but it does take a little bit more effort to be like, girl, stop everything you're doing and sit down and do this, because it would slow you down a little bit. And then as far as like being funny and the personality, like, I don't know for everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm funny regardless. But what I will say is that I thought that it was what gave me the confidence to like be who I already was. When the reality is that it would kind of just push me over that line where you're funny and where you're being too much and extroverted and all over the place and annoying people. So I just feel like, you know, yeah, like I used to always say, I need a drink to unlock my personality. But because I was incapable of finding that balance, sure, there's a little pizzazz there. But if you don't have that self-control and discipline with alcohol, which I didn't, and I've proven to not have it time and time again, you end up in situations where you thought you were a good time, but there's plenty of people that will tell you how annoying you were or what you really looked like. And it's usually just a mess. It's just an excuse, honestly, to not have an awareness of yourself, you know? So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I'm switching gears a little bit, but it's not really switching gears. We talked about it earlier, and I wanted to ask you, so remember before we spoke about people finding sobriety, finding recovery, and then just thinking that their lives are going to be 180, or sometimes it's not even their life itself. They think they're going to be in a totally different person. And I feel like for me, sobriety, recovery helps, honestly, just me, myself. Like I used to blame alcohol on a lot of stuff. And yes, I can, right? But then there's some things was like, oh no, I am kind of just moody. Oh no, this does really actually annoy me. Oh no, how I went about the situation may have been wrong because I was under the influence, but actually the way you treat me is pretty harmful. And I wasn't able to express that sober, so it would come out when I was drinking, right? I want to ask you your experience with the parts of yourself that you have accepted now that you are sober, but also has like, for example, did your sobriety change the way you feel about your daughter's father? Or is that like, it is what it is? And that's what I want to talk. Yeah.
So annoying as hell. Maybe sobriety may be helping him because I'm a little less volatile. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe he's less susceptible to like what he calls scroll text, where he gets a text message from me that he has to scroll through to read all of it. But yeah, no, I will say this. The only difference is that it makes me less loose with it. Like, for instance, I feel like when I get drunk, I would be more messy. So I could think what I thought about some gossip and that would remain the same. But like, if I was drunk, I'd be more susceptible to like spilling the business and talking openly about it and be like, you know, she stank. You know what I mean? Like, or something like that versus just keeping it internally. But I don't think it changed the person that I was. I think that it just, pushed me over the edge. But who I am as a person, the things that annoy me, the things that bother me, overall have remained pretty consistent. Like, I'm still a pretty irritable person.
What are the top three things that like just put you like annoy you? I think people call them pet peeves or whatever. Pet peeves. It's just top three things that just like
like sounds, most sounds, like backing up, beeping. Honestly, smells. You know what I mean? Like just being musty, not feeling good, which is crazy because I'm musty right now. I need to get in the shower. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm definitely easily triggered sensory girly. Like, things like that bother me a lot. Those are all my pet peeves. Sounds, smells. What else?
Basically the human experience.
Things like that. Those are probably my biggest pet peeves, are sounds and smells. For sure.
For sure. All right, I definitely do want to ask you that. Talk about your love life a little bit, just because it's inspirational. Like, oh my god, I have not had like a romance since like 2019. I don't know what the universe is doing. I don't know like what the plan is. I don't know what I have done. But it is so freaking annoying. And then I also always hear folks talk about, just in the recovery realm, in the rooms, in the club, about their love life. So it makes me feel not as bad. But then when I see your content, when I see like Jay's our co-host, and she's married, she just had a baby. Well, her baby is about to be 2, so she just had a baby, just became a mom recently. I'm like, there's hope. So I just want to know, like, did you meet your fiance? I think you were already in sobriety. How long have you? Okay, just spill it.
Yeah, so I've been in recovery for 607 days, so almost like I'm nearing that 2-year mark. Well, yeah, me and my partner, my fiance, I'm getting used to saying that. We met on Hinge. I was at the tail end of being in Brazil and knew I was coming back to Los Angeles, so I started shopping around, essentially. And then when I got back, we started dating. It's funny because initially, the first day we were supposed to go on, they canceled last minute, and I told them, I was like, oh, and they tried to reschedule, and I was like, I'm not interested in rescheduling because I already had childcare, and I just feel like you're obviously not in a position to be intentionally dating, and I just don't have time for that. And then I didn't talk to them for like a month, and then they circled back around again, and then we went on our first date. It's very queer, very, very queer timeline. But we met on January 15th, and then in person, and then January 25th, they asked me to be their girlfriend. So that was in the process of 10 days. And then by April, we had our apartment together, and then in August, we've been engaged.
Wait, is this year?
It's all this year, yeah. It's moved pretty quickly. Very, very clear timeline, but it's been working out pretty well, honestly. They're very loving, they're very kind, but I also feel like this is my first time in a relationship, for one, that's this long term and this serious, and also navigating sobriety. So when we first got together, they were also they drink, and so there were a lot of times that I had said, even before meeting them, dating people, that other people drinking didn't bother me. And I feel like we had a couple of situations at the beginning of our relationship where I actually realized that it does. And not in the sense that someone else being drunk bothers me as much as drunkenness is not attractive to me. So I don't know how to navigate that with my partner. And they recently decided to get sober. I think they're like 40 days sober right now. So that's
wow,
cool
congrats.
To go. Yeah, it's awesome. And whether or not they stay like that, or whatever their journey is with it, I think in the context of the relationship, we're learning like what are the boundaries. So for me, it's like, okay, I don't mind that you drink, but I can't with drunkenness, because there is a difference. There is a difference, and through their own journey, they have to see if that's somewhere or what that they can maintain. But yeah. So, very fast timeline. We're engaged now. but very much in love. Definitely my person. I see myself being with them for the rest of my life, building out a life together, and just like, yeah, like we really want the same things, and they just love in such a reciprocal way that I'm not used to, and so that's been great. But yeah, it was pretty quick. Comes out of nowhere. Life comes at you fast, especially in the queer world. They call it. They would say that we have U-hauled, is what they would call it, I believe.
Well, there we have it. So we know. First of all, congratulations on your engagement. Congrats to your partner. So there you have it, guys. We know that love and recovery is possible.
It is, but it's still hard. That's another thing too. I think another interesting thing is the same way that people say stuff about like sobriety and it being like this amazing thing. I think people also put a lot of, you know, that same energy into the concept of relationships or like being engaged. And I'm like, we are constantly having conversations about understanding each other and what we want. It is a lot of work, you know, and I don't like to say like, you know, that we're you know, people make those posts like after everything we've been through, and it's like because he just keeps cheating on our left and right and we'll do it. It's like not that, but like relationships, like long-term relationships where you actually care about the other person and you want there to be a certain level of peace and understanding requires so much work that it's like, you know, also prepare for that, because balancing that and sobriety too is a whole nother thing, you know.
yeah. No, I totally understand. And honestly, what you're saying is like it's so on point. Like for me, I haven't been in a relationship in sobriety, in recovery, and I know the person who I was in multiple long-term relationships before 2019, and but at that time during my youth or in addiction, you know, one of the things that led me to that space was because I was very misogynistic but didn't know it. I was very like, you know, just I was never a pick me. I was never a pick me, but I was very like, oh, I want the husband, I want the kids, I want this, I want like just trying to conform this life that I wanted, because you know everyone says you want it on paper, but as I was chasing it, I was miserable and very depressed and just not happy with my life, which encouraged me or fueled my addiction so I can escape this life that energetically in my body just did not want. So like you're so right, like I can't even imagine what being in a relationship would be like now. I just know that I'm no longer dependent. I don't find my worth based on like who I'm dating. And another thing I realized that when I was before recovery, I realized that I was dating people who I wanted to be, if that makes sense. I was dating people who pursued the arts, who were creative, who like made music, who were very strong and dominant. And it was just, I had to like do my recovery. I came to the conclusion like, Katie, that's what you want to be and that's what you want to do. And as I like change, as I chase the things that I know I want, it's like I'm no longer dependent. I'm no longer looking for like a partner for anything necessarily substantial. I just want a booty rub here and there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just it's like what I want and what I expect from a partner. Even though, again, this is on theory. I haven't been in a relationship for so long. It's nowhere in my head as in depth as it was when I was like still drinking pre-recovery. So yeah, that's a good point. I don't think a relationship is gonna, actually no, a vacation right now, a romantic vacation would change a lot for me right now. It would.
Listen, I'm engaged and I can use the vacation. We need to go somewhere.
True. Yeah. All right, Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Is there anything that you're working on? And like anything that you're working on that you just want to share?
Yeah, so right now I'm not specifically working on anything. Honestly, I'm kind of just like on a vibe with my content creation. So if anyone is listening, you just want to tap in with me on Instagram and TikTok, I'm at This Is Jessica Rose, or you can head over to SheelyHadABaby.com. If you have any, you know, single moms in the audience that enjoy a hot cup of baby daddy tears, I sell baby daddy tears merch. at shereallyhadababy.com. So just check me out, tap in with me, follow me where you can. And yeah, right now I'm just working these jobs and existing and trying to show up as a consistent content creator. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel, She Really Had a Baby. I'm trying to be more consistent over there with posts every Thursday. So,
oh, what are you posting? What are you creating over there on YouTube?
so just like vlogs, just like anything, any and everything, daily vlogs, rants, just trying to start up the consistency because I have a pretty solid following over there. It's just the channel died, so I'm trying to revive it with consistency first before I fully figure it out. Half the job is showing up and posting. So,
amen to that. Yes, we're going to put Jessica Rose's. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
Jessica Rose's? Yeah.
Either way.
We're gonna put Jessica Rose's social media account and website information definitely in the episode details. Definitely, we do have a lot of mothers in the club. We do have a lot of I don't know if necessarily single mothers, but we do have mothers in the club who I know for a fact would want to follow you, would want and will follow you, and can really find community in what you're presenting and what you're creating and what you have to offer. So again, thank you, Jessica Rose, for blessing the podcast today. Yeah, thanks for listening, y'all. Have a good one.
Bye. It was nice chatting with you.